in today's competitive market.
Characters are greatly needed.
Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces.
In today's competitive market.
Characters are
We make an important contribution. Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces.
In today's competitive market.
Characters are
We make an important contribution. Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces.
In today's competitive market.
Characters are
We make an important contribution. Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces.
In today's competitive market.
Characters are
We make an important contribution. Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces.
In today's competitive market.
We make an important contribution. Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces.
In today's competitive market.
We make an important contribution. Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces.
In today's competitive market.
We make an important contribution. Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces. Maximize the delivery of quality academic. We make an important contribution. Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces. Maximize the delivery of quality academic. Here at Wijaya Kusuma University of Surabaya, we overcome these challenges with a simple word, which is a hi, and that changes the world. Here at Wijaya Kusuma University of Surabaya, we overcome these challenges with a simple word, which is a hi, and that changes the world. Here at Wijaya Kusuma University of Surabaya, we overcome these challenges with a simple word, which is a hi, and that changes the world. I am here at Wijaya Kusuma University of Surabaya.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's start. Yeah. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Can hear my voice very loudly or something trouble with my voice? Excuse me. Would you please give me a feedback? Hello. Good morning, Professor Triharmaji, as our rector. Hello.
Terbukannya bahasa Inggris.
Keynote speaking, jangan yang
challenges of our time.
It can be a challenge to make a decision,
to make a new home,
to find truth,
to make a friends,
To succeed.
to adapt.
In today's competitive market,
doctors are greatly needed.
Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity face.
And to offer solution properly. We make an important contribution. Through our research support, we help others. We build learning culture. With high social responsibility.
To make knowledge experience.
and also work experience.
We maximize the delivery of quality academic.
Our lecturers and staff are always there for you.
To thrive, indeed survive in tomorrow's world, it is important to remember that Industry 4.0 requires organization to adopt a creative mindset, understanding the power of the interconnectivity realized by new technologies.
Here at Wijaya Kusuma University of Surabaya, we overcome these challenges with a simple word. We just say hi, and that changes the world.
I'm Yofian. I will be medical veterinarian.
I'm Dinda and I will be lawyer.
I'm Juventio. I will be agriculture engineer.
I'm Safira and I will be a politician. I'm Anissa and I will be a lecturer. I'm Ista, I will be doctor.
I'm Yuka, and I will be a manager.
I'm Ain, I will be accountant.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to everyone. The Honorable Rector of Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya and all of his staff, the Honorable Chairperson of the Institute of Research and Community Service, the Honorable distinguished speakers and participants from Indonesia, Myanmar, Jerman, Filipina, and Bangkok. Welcome to the webinar ASEAN Labor Health Management in Pandemic COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know that COVID-19 pandemic has changed various aspects such as health, education, and business activities. Well, during this pandemic, Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya did not stop in its effort to provide education to the community, one of which was by holding webinar activities. That's why this webinar is one of the webinar series organized by Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya. Not only various national level webinars have been held by Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya, but of course international level as well. Even at this moment, we are preparing an international conference with Scopus Index proceeding to be held online as well. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed further, let's listen to Indonesia Raya anthem song together. Please note that because it is Indonesia anthem, I urge that you all pay attention with a good attitude. Thank you. I apologize, seems that there are some technical problem. Please wait until the Indonesia Raya anthem song be played. Thank you.
Harusnya kita juga harusnya kita juga ini. Kita ikut bingung.
Okay, thank you for your attention. Now I will read the guidelines and rules for the webinar today. Number 1, participants must use the account name in the Zoom meeting in accordance with the name used when the webinar registration. Number 2, participants are not allowed to share the Zoom meeting ID and password with others. Number 3, participants are not allowed to record and distribute video meetings in any form. Number 4, during the webinar, participants are not permitted to unmute the microphone. Number 5, participants are required to attend the webinar from the beginning to the end of the webinar. Number 6, for participants who cannot enter the Zoom meeting, can join the webinar via YouTube streaming with the link that available on the Universitas Wijaya Kusuma official website. Number 7, participants who have questions, please write questions along with your names and affiliation in the Zoom meeting chat and the comments column on YouTube. The committee will select questions from participants. Number 8, electronic certificate will be distributed after the webinar ends. Number 9, name and title on a certificate according to the name that was filled by participants at the time of registration. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 3 sections in this event. The first is opening remarks by Rector of Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya, and the second is presentation of speakers that will be guided by moderator, and finally the third, closing. Our distinguished participants and speakers, without further ado, we would like to invite Professor Sri Harmaji as the Rector of Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya to deliver the opening remarks. Dear Professor, the time is yours.
Dear Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly a pleasure for me to welcome you to the International Website Seminar at the University of Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya. I am very grateful to you, Mr. Gregory Yusuf Labari, faculty member of International College of Raja Mangala, University Krungkap, Bangkok, for taking time off your busy schedule to join this important website seminar. I also wish to thank Dr. Ibrahim Nyoto, faculty member of University of Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya, for agreeing to give your experience and knowledge for this website seminar. It is also an honor for us to welcome representatives from Wijaya Kusuma Foundation, Vice Rector and Dean to the website seminar today. And I would like to greet the lecturers and students from wherever you are. I'm especially honored to welcome you here to Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya website seminar. With 8 faculties, we are always trying to grow better and better by improving our college on new college against what is going on in international. We are meeting at a time when the world now faces a collapsing health system caused by a novel virus, coronavirus. We are worried that the momentum achieved after the financial crisis and threatened by the trade tension between both China and United States. We think advance and a new strategy being in the driver's seat of a global need where bigger responsibilities not only for maintaining global economic stability but also for supporting the growth of the least developed countries. Today, confirmed positive of COVID-19 infection in Asia. It is not surprising since there was delaying the intervention program to prevent spreading of coronavirus in Indonesia. Against the pandemic COVID-19 through this year, this pandemic has significantly weakened the global economy. Our country, Indonesia, need to attempt your position strategically in order to face the impact of such impact despite its middle income status. It is still possible to mitigate the grasp of a global pandemic. In my opinion, the time is now right to reflect on a number of cautions. Today, Indonesia is the highest confirmed case number of COVID-19. Did we choose the right instrument in the crisis? How far our world population was affected by the situation? How can we secure lasting and sustainable growth? First of all, however, I look forward to the speech of Mr. Gregory Joseph Labare and Dr. Ibrahim Nyoto to address the question. We thank you very much for joining to the University of Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya website seminar, and we look forward to your remark on the ASEAN labor health management in pandemic COVID-19. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opening remarks speech, Prof. Sri Harmaji. Entering the next event will be presentation of speakers that will be guided by moderator. Today's moderator is special, a veterinary that achieved doctorate degree at 27 years old, namely Dr. Siti Gusti Ningrum. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the moderator by reading her curriculum vitae, as you can see on screen. She is a member of Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya and was a member of Universitas Bandung Raya and Universitas Mula Warman. She achieved the first doctoral from PMDSU Kemristek Dikti, the best doctoral in Bogor Agricultural University, and she's a reviewer of some international and national journal, and many more, as you can see on screen. Dear moderator, the stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Fani, for your introduction. Good morning, everyone, wherever you are, Indonesia, Thailand, Myanmar, so this Philippines and Germany, Guten Morgen. I hope you are doing well and healthy in this pandemic. Siti Gusti Ningrum speaking here, and thank you for having me. Okay, in order to combat an unprecedented virus, today we will glad to hear the speech from three speakers. For the first, it will be presented by Professor Dr. Sri Harmaji, Rector of Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya. Following by Dr. Ibrahim Nyoto from Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya. Good morning, Dr. Ibrahim. And today we have a special guest speaker. Yeah. Yeah, good morning. And today we have special guest speaker, Mr. Gregory Joseph Labare from Raja Mangala University, Krungthep, Bangkok. Hello, Mr. Labare. Okay. Before we go, please let me introduce the keynote speaker first.
Good morning.
Okay, I can hear you. Okay. First, Professor Dr. Sri Harmaji. He is Rector of Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya and also a doctor who specializes in ear, nose, and throat problem. Until now, Professor Harmaji has written more than 80 articles and got many awards from Indonesia government. And he is still active in national and international organizations. Well, I think this is time for Professor Harmaji, Rector of Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya, to present the Getting Your Workplace Ready for COVID-19, Facing the Truth that Indonesia as the epicentrum of COVID-19 in Southeast Asia. Professor Harmaji, time is yours.
Faces a collapsing health system, an economic recession that could wipe out 2 decades of development gap, and the prolonging threat of social unrest. After you join this webinar, you will find what simple ways to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in your workplace, to how to manage COVID-19 risk when organizing meeting and event. 3 things to consider when you and your employees travel. 4, getting your workplace ready in case COVID-19 arrive in your community. Next slide, please. After months of denying undetected coronavirus cases, the government confirmed in first infected patient in March. By then, Indonesian neighbors were already rolling out mass testing and mobility restrictions to contain community spread. In the absence of strict containment measures, Indonesia coronavirus death surged to become the highest in Asia. As of June 23, the government official count of positive cases surpassed more than 72,000 after tests were performed. That the country has recorded almost 3,500 deaths, including doctor and nurse. The government also acknowledged the presence of over 230,000 suspected cases waiting for the test. The escalation crisis performed the declaration of national health emergency and the imposition of social distancing measures in Jakarta and other affected regions. Nationwide restrictions on commercial travel by air, sea, land are now in effect. At the end of March, the government issues a legal policy through government regulation number 21 year 2020 concerning large-scale social restriction within PSBB and Presidential Decree number 12 year 2002 concerning determination of public health emergency. As long as PSBB, it is allowed limited school closure and suggested that people work from home. The aim is to emphasize social distancing in order to be able to discipline the community in the context of accelerating the handling of COVID-19. Please, slide 4. Public legal awareness to comply with social restriction on the large scale is important because PSBB doesn't have criminal implication or sanction that are courts. So that community participation is needed to reduce the spread of COVID-19, whose numbers are already fantastic positive. The community is expected to be the key of successful implementation of PSBB and be able to break the chain of the spread of the COVID-19 virus, especially having legal awareness by disciplining themselves to obey. That was the appeal, guidance, or direction set by the government. For example, by using masks, work from home, social distancing, office, physical distancing, staying at home, and so on. Next slide, please. In general, society does not feel the difference before and after the PSBB is implemented. Why? Since this intervention may have come too late, so discipline the community takes a long time, and firmness in the public service implementer. PSBB is not effective because it is not firm in regulating right and obligation between the government and the community. In contrast to the quarantine of region which ensure the fulfillment of the need of quarantined people. As a result, the government cannot force people to comply with all appeal, especially those who have a living. The public will be disciplined if the rules are clear, the sanctions are clear, and the law enforcement is consistent. Legal awareness is the problem of the failure of PSBB in Indonesia, especially in Surabaya. Legal awareness is self-awareness without any pressure, caution, or order to outside the comply with applicable law. With the running of legal awareness in the community, the law does not need to impose sanctions. Sanctions are only imposed on citizens proven to be violating law that contain command and prohibition. The law tells us with action against the law which it's done will be threatened with legal sanction of acts that are contrary to the law, of course, are considered to violate the law, so they get the threat of punishment. Building community legal awareness is indeed not an easy matter, even very different compared to building some physical facility, such as facilities and infrastructure, especially with the background of Indonesian people who are culture diverse in ethnicity, religion, economic, culture, and education. This is because it builds legal awareness regarding one's inner processes, and the inner processes between people are different from each other, because it is also involved the experiment, knowledge, association of life, appreciation of legal norm, and the background of each person. Also, COVID-19 propaganda has a significant influence of our awareness propaganda. It is synonymous with communication activity that seek to manipulate the physiology of the audience. In practice, propaganda elaborated message to gain persuasive influence that is used to create active or passive participation in the action of individuals who are united through psychological manipulation. Currently, along with the existence of communication technology that is so sophisticated and considered to be very effective, mass media, especially internet-based media such as social media, are often used as a channel to bear propaganda by various parties. Next slide, please. Actually, the lowest cost measure will help prevent the spread of infection in your workplace, such as cold, flu, stomach bug, and protect your employment. Employers should start doing this thing now, even if COVID-19 has not arrived in the community where they operate. These measures can reduce working days lost due to illness and stop or slow the spread of COVID-19. It is arrived at one of your workplaces. Make sure your workplaces are clean and hygienic, such as surface and objects need to be wiped with disinfectant regularly. Why? Because contamination on surfaces touched by people is one of the main ways that COVID-19 spread. Promote regular and through hand washing by employers, by put sanitation hand rub dispenser in prominent places around the workplace. Make sure that dispensers are regularly refilled. Display poster promoting hand wash as your local public health authority for this. Combined with other communication measures, such as offering the guidance from occupation health and safety officials, briefing and meeting, and information on intranet site to promote hand washing. Make sure that staff has access to place where they can wash their hand with soap and water. Why? Because washing kills the virus on your hand and prevent the spread of COVID-19. Promote good respiration hygiene is workplace by displays poster promoting respiratory hygiene. Combine this with other communication measures such as guidance from occupational health and office officers. Briefing at meeting and information on the intranet, etc. Ensure that face masks or paper tissue are available at your workplaces for those who develop a runny nose or cough at work, along with close bin with hygienically disposing of them. Why? Because good respiratory hygiene prevent the spread of COVID-19. Advise employer to consult national travel advice before going to business trip. Brief your employer that if COVID-19 starts spreading in your community, anyone with even a mild cough of low-grade fever need to stay at home. They should also stay at home if they have had to take simple medication as a paracetamol, or acetaminophen, ibuprofen, or aspirin, which may mask symptoms of infection. Then, keep promoting the message that people need to stay at home even they have only mild symptoms of COVID-19. Display poster with this message in your workplaces. Combine this with other communication channels commonly used in your organization. Next slide, please. Key consideration to prevent or reduce COVID-19 risk will be explained well by our special speaker. Thank you very much for joining our webinar, international webinar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Harmaji, for your presentation. Okay, well, everyone, as we can see from Professor Harmaji presentation, there is a big alarm since the shocking number we heard today reached more than 70,000 people confirmed COVID-19 in Indonesia. I think this number will increase day by day if people always ignore COVID-19 protocol. However, only we who can control the spreading of the disease, and it is very possible to do it by simple ways, as Professor Harmaji mentioned before. Okay, please stay tuned since we've just begun. I heard that we have friend from Philippines. Hello, Mr. Marlon. How do you do? Hello, Mr. Marlon. Are you there? Thank you for joining our seminar online.
Thank you so much. I am very happy to be here listening to our experts. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining our seminar online. Well, everyone, the next presentation is fascinating since the themes about what kind of sanitizer which really work to kill coronavirus. Then not all sanitizer work against it. Here's what you should see. Please, okay. Dr. Ibrahim Nyoto, he is a member of Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya. He took a doctoral program in biomedical science. He is active in researches belong to medical and active writing articles. Also, he has many experiences as an international speaker and got many awards from the Indonesia government. Dr. Ibrahim, you have 25 minutes. Please take your time.
Thank you, dear moderator, Dr. Siti, and Dr. Fahmi as a MC at this webinar international series at this moment. Thank you. Allow me to grateful, thanks, and honorable rector and vice rector and the dean of the University of Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya and Dr. Hari and team of LPPM, University of Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya, and the dear committee and the team at today's international webinar series, and also to my colleagues, the speaker from Thailand, Mr. Gregory Yosef Labari from Raja Malengka University of Technology, Thailand. Also for the dear college and students and all participants around the world from inside or outside Indonesia. Good morning, everybody, and may God bless us with the health and protection from the COVID-19 disease. Okay, allow me to perform a presentation about the, would you please, the committee, share screen of the manuscript, would you please, the slide, please, share screen the slide.
Please the slide.
Yes.
Dr. Ibrahim, could you please raise your voice since everyone cannot still hear you clearly?
Sorry, moderator, can you repeat your statement?
Yeah, do you have something like a mic or something that can you raise your voice since everybody maybe still cannot hear you clearly.
No, I have no another. What this mic or something. Yeah, I have only one.
Okay.
Recording. Okay.
It's no problem.
Yes. Let us continue. Allow me to perform this presentation. The title was Fungicide, Antiseptics and Disinfectant. Which one suitable against the COVID-19 pandemic? Next full slide, please. Dear operator, next full slide, please. Yes. As we know, the globalization era has a high mobility of economic activity through the ASEAN countries. But today, this COVID-19 pandemic is the opposite one, the deglobalization era. This is a problem for the labor, for the citizen and everybody in the world. Let us seek the World Health Organization timelines. Actually, at the March 12, 2020, the COVID-19 declared as a pandemic disease in the world. Before it, at the January the 5th, 2020, COVID-19 was established at the Wuhan, China. Next, please. Next slide, please. Full, yes. And we can see the WHO said the January 10, the precaution of the physical contact, droplet and airborne aerosol to health workers, to health professionals. This is the basic for the social and physical distancing as a new fundamental to break the chain of COVID-19 transmission. And we can see at the January 13, the WHO declared that the first COVID-19 cases found in Thailand. You know, everybody know that the Thailand countries have a very high tourism sector and manufacturing sector. This is correlated to the case of COVID-19 outside the China. And next full slide, please. Yes. Yeah, we know that the COVID-19 has affected to 213 countries and territories in the world. Yes, it is almost all of the world. We know about 250 something countries and territories in the world. And some of the countries, they worried about the second outbreak of the COVID-19. Yes, next slide, please. Yes. In Indonesia, our country was struggling to control this disease, the new disease. The record was established at the July 2020. We have 2,657 cases, the new cases on this day, which is a very fantastic record and very badly impact to our country in Indonesia. So what the position of the antiseptics and disinfectant? Antiseptics and disinfectant position are needed, but many cases we found the misuse of the antiseptics and disinfectants against the COVID-19, such as drink the disinfectant agents, risk health of human organs, such as skin, eye, and others. Next slide, please. Yes, full slide, yes. We know the COVID-19 transmission in the world create problems. The two big problems. The first problem is about the health sector. We must protect the transmission. So WHO produce the lockdown something social lockdown. But if the lockdown continues too long, so the economic crisis will occur. So this is two kind of very hard to choice. So what is the solution to make the two hard choices combining together to have reducing the transmission of COVID-19, also to save the economic in the COVID-19 pandemic. So we believe that using the virucide, antiseptics, and disinfectants properly used, it will give a solution. One of the major breaking the transmission of COVID-19. So would you please next slide, full slide, please. Yes. At this slide, we perform these three kind of figure. The left figure, you can see the pathomechanism of the virus, SARS-CoV-2, inside the cell of the host cell. You know that the virus has a spike, and they have a glycoprotein membrane also an envelope to attach the host membrane to go inside and doing replication before it outbreak at a disease or a complication of the cell, tissues, organs for the host. And the middle figure, we can see the actually picture of virus, SARS-CoV-2, which performed by transmission electron microscope. Their size is about 70 to 90 nanometer. It's very small things. And the right picture, we can have what I can say that about the anatomical structure of the virus, SARS-CoV-2. Yes, they have a spike, glycoprotein membrane, envelope, and M protein, and helical nucleic acid, which is a very effective RNA component. Yes. Please, operator, next slide, next full slide, please. Yes. At this slide, we have information that all of the world from the WHO information, we have 11 million, more than 11 million, 125,245 cases. This is compared to population in the world is about 7.8 billion. It is a small presentation is about 1.5 per month, but the widespread around the world, countries and territories is very dangerous. And health professionals, researchers around the world was shocked by this new disease. Before it is a SARS at 2002, and the MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, is about 2012. But these two kind of disease is for the local population or something. But this today we're facing the COVID-19. It's a widespread across the nation to almost every country in the world. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes. At this slide, we can see the results of study which the researcher has the data of the lifespan experiment of SARS-CoV virus 2. We can see the virus can spread and live in airborne droplets at 3 hours. But today we have information that not the droplets, the airborne only can be used by this virus as a transmission device to attack another people. It can be survive at almost 8 hours. It is very, very dangerous virus. Okay, okay. We can see also the virus can live about up to 72 hours, almost 3 days in hard shiny surface. Yes, you can see to another slide. Next full slide, please. Dear operator, next full slide, please. Yes, full slide. Yes. We can see the virus can live at air about 3 hours, but now we have data that they can live about 8 hours. The virus can live at Cooper about 4 hours. Yeah. And cardboard, and they can live about 24 hours. And stainless steel 2 for 3 days live lifespan, and the plastics can live more than 2 days. So next full slide, please. Yes, before we discuss at this slide, scientists around the world, researchers and scientists around the world has an experiment, as a study for this COVID-19 disease. Allow me to have a compilation of their studies. All of them, they have a result of the data researchers. When we combine it together, we can have a 5 phase of the virus, SARS-CoV virus 2. At the first phase, we have a transmission. The second phase is about the invasion of the virus. The third phase is about the going inside and make the host cell as a reproductive cell. We call a replication phase. And the fourth phase is about damaging, to damage the cell host and the tissue organ, and to have a complication, maybe 1 or 2 or multiple organ failure at the host. When this moment, so the patient will be die if the complication occurs. And the last phase, the fifth phase, is about the mutation phase. So after we combining this 5 phase of SARS-CoV virus 2, we can have a different cutting or breaking the chain. At the first phase and the second phase, we can have a antiseptics and disinfectant position to have it, to handle this phase. But when we create a new product of drugs or something, drug anti-inflammation, drug antivirus, or viruses drug, we can have a third and the fourth phase. But we can have a vaccine immunization, yeah, to have a internal immune defense. Also have problems with the fifth phase. when the virus mutated. So the big question we have, still the vaccine effective to this subspecies or subvariant of virus? We don't know yet. We will know after the vaccination drugs or vaccination agent was produced, was ready to use for the global, for the world. So after that, we can see the precaution of COVID-19 transmission. Number one is using mask, facial mask and face shield. As we know, many kinds of masks. The fabric mask, the medical mask, and the surgeon mask. And the face shield also many kind of models of shield. The second was hand frequently by the soap or hand sanitizer, at least 15. Some researcher has data 15 to 30 minutes, 30 seconds each time, frequently. And the third, we have avoid crowded area and apply physical and psychosocial distancing. And the fourth, stay at home and avoid contacts with another people who has no clear history of COVID-19 contact tracing. This the fourth, we cannot ask somebody truly, because we facing that the disease, this disease make not the truth, maybe lying process of the individual, because they are afraid to become people which who has a quarantine or isolation. And the fifth, we can see the avoid hospital areas with unnecessary activity. The sixth, about the quarantine, the suspect and illness patient of COVID-19. The seventh is cleaning with disinfectant, also usage of antiseptics. Yeah. Dear operator, would you please change the next full slide, please? Dear operator, yes. Yes. Today we have at July 7 or 8, we have a open letter. We have a news that 239 researchers and experts in the world have an open letter to WHO that said that this disease was transmission through airborne. So after that, 1 day after that, the WHO declared that the COVID-19 transmission through airborne, but the setting is the medical situation. So this statement will change the health protocols to avoid COVID-19 transmission, such as air ventilation, usage of air conditioning machine, like in the car, on the roof, yeah? Air filtration, air sterilization, and others. Like we have ultraviolet lights to kill the virus in the air. Yes, this condition makes the antiseptics and disinfectant more strongly needed than before. That we know that the antiseptics and disinfectant can be used. The new product on the new research will product something steps to provide this transmission of COVID-19. Yes, dear operator, would you please going to next slide, please? Yes. As we know, the definition of antiseptics and definition of disinfectant, the difference was it has passed the clinical trial for human safety dose in the antiseptics. So we must beware not using the disinfectant for the antiseptics position. Yes, because the dose of disinfectant is very dangerous for us, for human, human cell, human tissue, and also human organs. Yeah, next full slide, please. Dear operator. Yes. This is an indication usage of antiseptics and disinfectant. Yeah. In the B point, we can see the personal protection equipment. We know the people around the world reusing the masks, especially the fabric masks. They have a disinfectant to sterilize the PPE, personal protection equipment. So we must need to know about the antiseptics and disinfectants using very carefully. Yeah, next full slide, please. Yeah, the examples of antiseptics we can know the alcohols, iodine. Some research they have povidone which spray into the nasal spray. They have a 99% to kill the virus almost at the less than 1 hour. Yes. And chlorosiphenol, chlorhexidine group, gluconate, hydrogen peroxide, and others. What are the examples of disinfectant? The disinfectant can be performed as a paper agent, aerosol like a propylene glycol, triethylene glycol, also hand sanitizer about the content alcohol 70%, aldehyde, yeah, oxidation agent, chlorine peroxide, and others. Next slide, please. Yes, this is a occurring side effect of usage antiseptics and disinfectant. Improper use of antiseptics or disinfectant, such as one agent must using as a disinfectant, but some people misuse it as an antiseptic, which is a very dangerous side effect will occur. The overdose of usage antiseptic or disinfectant, or the opposite one, about the third, fake antiseptics or disinfectant. The fourth is about the underdose antiseptic or disinfectants, maybe over dilution of the antiseptics or disinfectant. The fifth is about the containing harmful agent of human tissues such as skin for the hand sanitizer, which contain tryptophan. This is an agent of pesticide which affect to the thyroid gland, liver, also a muscle for the human function. Would you please change to next slide? Yes. At this slide, we want to perform that the transmission or early infected tissues organ in upper respiratory tract. We can see at the early phase, early step, we can see the superficial layer of nasal cavity and oral cavity. When the virus reaches this step, we can destroy or can kill this virus. So some researcher has a povidone and the gargling agent for the killing the virus in nasal cavity or oral cavity. And the second is about the oral vestibulum primary and oral cavity. Primary is also same with the first phase. This also can be killed. The virus can be killed by the oral agent like the povidone gargling agent. So the third is about the nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. This is almost reachable by the povidone gargling agent. And the fourth is about the tracheal main bronchus. This is a deeper organ. then ended by the bronchioles and alveoli. This is a unreachable until right now. We don't have an agent to sterilize this site. Yeah. And the fifth is about the parenting of pulmonary tissue. We know as a doctor, a professional doctor, we handle the COVID-19 patient. We have a high opacity when the patient have a X-ray, the thoracic X-ray. We have a high opacity from the periphery through the central area of the both of the pulmonary organ. This is the phenomenon that explains that the parenchyma organ of pulmonary patient change to fibrotic, yes, fibrotic tissue. It makes choking, like the patient cannot breathe. They have a very high problem of respiratory tract. Using a mark or antiseptic or just reach the oral and nasal cavity, it needs to develop research to have a new product of antiseptics or nasal cavity agent to reach the more widely, safely agent to destroy this COVID-19 virus. Next slide, please. Yes. In this slide, we can see from the Texas Medical Association that they group the risk to 5 classifications. The low risk classification, moderate low classification, and moderate risk, moderate high risk, and high risk classification. As we know, the opening the mail, getting the restaurant take out, yeah, pumping gasoline is a low risk. But the moderate low risk is about the grocery shopping, going for work, or have a physical examination is also the moderate low risk. Staying at hotel for 2 nights, going to library or museum. And the moderate risk is about the shopping at the mall, sending kids to school, have a camping and daycare. And a moderate high risk is about going to cutting the hair at salon or barber shop, eating at restaurant, attending a wedding or funeral, traveling by plane. You know, right now it's very dangerous to have a traveling by plane. And the high risk classification was eating at the buffet, you know, going to the movie theater, going to sports stadium, and going to bar. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes. At this slide, we can see many protocols, health protocols to avoid this disease, this new disease. The hand sanitizer also as antiseptics or disinfectant was the major agent for using these steps. You can see we can have a fumigation or we have evaporation to kill this COVID-19. Yeah. Except using the facial mask. Next slide, please. Yes. Still, the using of antiseptics and disinfectants have a greater position to prevent the COVID-19. Also, when the patient was get infected, you see, when the patient has isolation, the antiseptics and disinfectants still have a major position. Next slide, please. Yes. What is our conclusion? We must know this type of products. The products is antiseptics or disinfectants, we must know it first. And precaution about the dose, usage education of the products, not using overdose or lower dose or over dilution. It will not be it will not useful for using this over dilution of antiseptics or disinfectant. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes. Avoid misuse of the products. For example, drinking the disinfectant products or antiseptic products or inhalation the antiseptic products which not recommended for this usage factory. The next is about the proper use of antiseptics and disinfectant which reduce the COVID-19 transmission. Yeah, next slide, please.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
very much for
thank
your
you very much,
Dr.
dear moderator, dear participants, and thank you once again for the dear committee and PPM team who provide this event, and may God bless us together
Amen.
to have protection, missing or spreading the COVID-19 diseases. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Ibrahim. Well, Dr. Ibrahim, since the outbreak of COVID-19, we still remember sales of hand sanitizer have soared, right? And I still remember at that time it was really difficult to buy hand sanitizer. And I still remember also the shock price at the time. But now we can find in many variants of hand sanitizer. But in fact, so many variants make people confused which one really works, or the worst, they do not know how to distinguish disinfectant and sanitizer. Okay, thank you for your presentation. First of all, I want to say hi to our friend from Myanmar, Mr. Yao Chin Tanshin. Am I correct? How do you do? From Myanmar, hello. You hear me? Okay, I think you're online, and thank you for joining our seminar online. For your information, you can write your question on chat, and Dr. Ibrahim and also Mr. Labere will respond for your question. And ladies and gentlemen, please don't go first because we still have one more speaker. Mr. Labere, how do you do? Mr. Gregor.
Hello? Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, very clearly.
Oh, okay, good.
Thank you very much for joining our seminar online, and I hope everything's fine in Thailand.
It's very fine. It's a lot better. Yeah. First, before I start, I wanted to, I hope that my presentation is relevant to the webinar. It's not scientific. It is more sociological about labor. So, it should be quite interesting for all of ASEAN people. The other part is I want to say that I come from America.
Yeah.
I've lived in Thailand for many years, and I watch the news in America, and it's much more serious in America. The statistics are shocking, more than any other country, and I'm sure you're aware of that. And it's deeply shameful. It's very shameful that America is like in this situation. So whatever the situation is here, then you should feel proud that you are doing a lot more in a very organized, directed way than the United States is. So that's what I have to say about that. Okay. I will share my screen now. Can I do that?
Yeah. Yes. But first, I would like
Yes.
to step you.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Here we have Mr. Gregory Joseph Labari. He has been a member of the faculty of the International College of Raja Mangala University, Krung Thep, Bangkok since 2002. He's American, and he is presently a senior consultant and advisor to the faculty dean. Also, his view is more focused on an applied approach to situational issues on education and business. And this time, Mr. Labere will talk about ASEAN labor health management in pandemic COVID-19. Last but not least, you have 25 minutes, Mr. Labere. Please, this is your time.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm going to share.
Yeah.
Okay. Share. Slideshow from the beginning. Yes? Is this visible to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right. First thing is thank you for your kind invitation to participate in today's webinar, which this is your theme, ASEAN Labor Health Management in Pandemic COVID-19. As a prologue to this presentation, 150 years ago in America, 150 years ago began the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad in America. This is relevant. I know it looks like it isn't, but it is. In 1863, the United States began construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, which connected the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. It was a very massive infrastructure project which required many men to do the hard backbreaking work. And in the western part of America, like in Nevada, California, there were not enough men willing or able to do the hard work or available. There were not enough. So to fill the labor shortage, eventually what the railroad companies did was hire Chinese immigrants. And at the highest point, there were 20,000 Chinese immigrants to work on the railroad in the 1800s. They had left China looking for gold in the Western United States, especially in California, in the 1840s and 50s. And most people looking for gold did not find gold. So a lot of them started to work on the railroad. And they faced a lot of discrimination and prejudice, as happens in America all the time. They worked longer hours and under harsher conditions than the white laborers. And they were paid 30% to 50% less money. So that is the sad prologue, and I will continue that at the end. The purpose of this presentation is to look at the demographic challenges of some ASEAN countries and to look at the issues of migrant labor in ASEAN. I'm focusing mostly on the migration of labor and eventually what it will do in terms of COVID. So aging and aged populations in ASEAN, challenges and opportunities. This is the population growth from 1960 to 2020 to 2020 of the population of Indonesia. It follows quite a straight line going right up to where it is today. This is the population growth chart of Thailand, which it increased dramatically, but you will see it's not as such a straight line as Indonesia. You see Indonesia there, straight line. It sort of curves off in Thailand in the mid-90s. This is a population chart of the 10 ASEAN nations, which you all know, coming from Indonesia, that you are the most populous country, followed by Philippines, Vietnam, and then Thailand. However, birth rates have been declining in certain countries of ASEAN. In Thailand, the birth rate from 1960 to 2014 went from 6 babies on average down to 1.5 in 2014. An example of this problem is that since 2002 to today at the universities in Thailand, there were much fewer students. There were fewer students available to attend university. So that's one of the real examples of a declining birth rate. A similar pattern you can see in Indonesia of total birth of 5.7 to 2.4 in 2015. Not as serious as Thailand, but it is declining. A lot of that has to do with people living live births being much healthier. Take a look at the median age of the ASEAN nations. It's a good snapshot picture of the of how old a country is, the oldest being Singapore at an average age of 40.5, and Thailand is number two with 38.3. So, and all the others are mostly under 30 or very close to 30. This is a study done by Japanese scholars in 2017 called Aging Population in Asian Countries. Many Asian countries are facing a rapidly aging population, which will cause Social Security expenditures and national budget to rise. And this is one of the real drastic examples. Identifying an aging population. How do you know what is an aging population? So aging and aged societies. The aging rate, we take a look at the aging rate, which is the percentage of a population over 65 years of age. I did it in a pie chart. The best way of looking at it very simply is a pie chart. To take a look at the yellow wedge of the pie chart is after working age, 65 plus. In the green segment to the right is under 15 years of age. But this is what we call aging rate. If the aging rate exceeds 7%, it is said to be called an aging society. And if it's 14% or above, it is an aged society. So take a look at this next chart where the aging rate, again, if it is over 7%, it's aging. If it is 14% or higher, it is aged. Take a look. So we look at this pie chart, which is, we call, another way of calling it is a dependency ratio. So this is a dependency ratio for Thailand in 2019. The after working age, 65 plus, is almost 15%. Before working age is almost 25%. So in the blue is the working age population. How does that compare to Indonesia? Take a look at Indonesia and you have a much younger population. 41% is under 15, and after working age is only 7.7%. So it doesn't look like you're in danger at the moment. Japan has the world's highest ratio of over 65 population, nearly almost 50%, 48.27% are 65 plus in Japan, and only 21% of the population is under 15. So they have only 30% available for working. So comparing the two pie charts of Japan to Thailand, does this look like an immediate future challenge for Thailand? Very possibly. Yeah, if the birth rate continues like that, eventually that might happen in about 20 years. Because I have seen the population of university students 18 years ago compared to today, much less. Indonesia, are there immediate future challenges for Indonesia? Not so much. Look at the yellow segments. You've got a much smaller wedge of yellow of over 65 in your country, Indonesia. Philippines, 7.22% over 65. Cambodia, 6.4%. You've got a lot of young people in Philippines and Cambodia. Vietnam, you have a lot of young people, not so many as the other two countries. And Laos, a huge percentage of the population is under 15. In Burma, in my country, we still call it Burma, Myanmar, 41% under 15. And Singapore is sadly the oldest of the ASEAN countries with 16% of the population over 65. So that's in the danger zone. Malaysia is rather young also at 7.99%. So in looking at these pie charts compared to Japan, are there immediate future challenges as Japan in terms of labor? Indonesia, not really. Philippines, no. Thailand, yes. Cambodia, no. Myanmar, no. Laos, no. Okay, going fast because I have a lot of slides. What are some of the challenges for a country with an aging population, aging like Singapore or Thailand? This is from the Bangkok Post last October. Headlines, pensions need drastic reform. Becoming an aged society is a big challenge for Thailand, especially when it comes to welfare provided by existing pension schemes. Without drastic pension systems reform, Thailand as an aged society will become a mountainous burden for the state treasury. So they are saying, okay, this is a red flag. It's going to be a problem eventually. Challenges for a country with an aging population such as Thailand there'll be a challenge on the healthcare system eventually. There will be a challenge for social benefits and pension schemes. There will be need for additional state revenues. Where will the money come from? You must raise the taxes perhaps. And in labor, there will be a need for migrant workers, which there is right now in Thailand, an immediate need for migrant workers. So we talk about migrant workers and cross-border labor mobility. From this article in CFO Innovation, you have an aging population in Singapore and Thailand, but you have youthful ones in the Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. You need to take advantage of these demographic changes in ASEAN to get an optimum distribution of labor. Countries, and this going back to the ASEAN, this is from the ASEAN briefing of 2016, countries like Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore are in need of affordable labor. Countries like Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore are in need of affordable labor, which Indonesia could easily supply with its surplus of young unemployed workers. This is a chart of the average monthly earnings in US dollars. Now, this is from 2016, and some of the figures are higher, but the proportions are generally the same. Cambodia is at $84, but right now there's a minimum wage of about $170 in Cambodia. So that is higher, actually, but proportionally lower than all the other countries of Myanmar, Laos, Philippines. The two highest average monthly earnings are Brunei and Singapore. And then Thailand is number 4 of the average monthly earnings, very high, $482 per month. This is a very interesting correlation with life expectancy of both male and female. Look at this chart. The lowest life expectancy on average is 65 years old in Cambodia, with the highest of Singapore of 85. And go back to the chart of income. There's a direct correlation. If you look at GDP, which I don't have, that it almost follows it in the same way. So life expectancy and income go hand in hand because of improved healthcare in those countries. Labor mobility in ASEAN countries, they're not as free and relatively unrestricted as those of the European Union. However, for skilled workers, there are documents called mutual recognition agreements, which were developed by the ASEAN AEC to facilitate skilled worker mobility, but these cover only a very small number of licensed professions, which are doctors, dentists, nurses, engineers, architects, accountants, surveyors, and tourism professionals, which account for only 5% of the total jobs in ASEAN. So mutual recognition agreements cover only 5% of total jobs in ASEAN. This is from the ASEAN briefing also of 2016. This is from about state governments of each country. The restrictive labor policies held by several Southeast Asian countries demonstrate the lack of political and public will to pursue increased labor mobility. This is from the Straits Times of 2017. Better labor mobility can benefit ASEAN. And this is quoting a World Bank document from 2017. As ASEAN seeks further integration, its members can do more to lower barriers for their workers to move in and out of one another's countries to work, according to the World Bank. In doing so, they can reap benefits by spreading talent and know-how around ASEAN, which is among the fastest growing regions in a tepid global economy. That was for skilled workers. How about unskilled migrant labor? This is from the International Labor Organization. They did a study in 2017. Immigrant workers do contribute significantly to Thailand's economy. Now we're focusing on Thailand. They significantly contribute to Thailand's economy. Migrant workers make an enormous development contribution to ASEAN region's economies through skills, labor, services, and competitiveness in countries of destination, and financial remittances, skills, and knowledge upon return to their countries of origin. In destination countries, meaning somebody coming from Myanmar or Laos going into Thailand, many migrant workers fill labor market niches by doing jobs that nationals do not want or cannot fill. So a lot of these workers, you can see construction workers, they're doing jobs that a lot of Thai people just don't want to do. Yet many migrant workers in the region are subject to labor exploitation and abuse during recruitment and employment. This is according to the International Labor Organization. This is from the Myanmar Peace Monitor of 2 years ago. For unskilled workers, the Thai Ministry of Labor announced in 2018 that unskilled migrant workers are only allowed to work in 12 types of jobs, including general laboring, livestock breeding, agriculture, fishing, construction, pottery making, steel making, shoemaking, and garment factory work. So those are the jobs that you're allowed to do. According to the Thai Minister of Labor 2 years ago, he's no longer the minister, but this is in 2018, he said, migrant workers can wash the dishes at the restaurants, they can work as waiters, they can work as cleaning staff in beauty salons, and they can wash the customers' feet in nail salons, but they cannot work as beauticians. This is from the Myanmar Peace Monitor. They cannot work as beauticians. So their job description is quite limited. Most migrant unskilled workers in Thailand come from Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. Why? Look at this chart of the average monthly earnings. Even though Cambodia is a little higher now, you go from the low pay up to the high pay, which makes it more attractive. That is one of the reasons. Most migrant unskilled workers in Thailand come from Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. Actually, of the 5 million non-Thai population in Thailand, 80% of the nearly 5 million people who are not Thai living in Thailand, I'm one of them, 80% are low-skilled workers from Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. Oh, sorry. They're in low-skilled jobs, many without documents. Forgot to say that. Many without legal documentation. This is coming from Human Rights Watch. Exploitation of low-skilled migrant workers. There are reports that some low-skilled migrant workers work long hours and they're paid less than the legal minimum wage. This is from Reuters. Thailand has 3 million migrant workers on its books, but the United Nations Migration Agency estimates that there are at least 2 million more working illegally across the country. Millions of migrant workers from Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos are in Thailand's low-skilled sectors with limited state oversight, unscrupulous employment practices which leave many workers vulnerable to exploitation and modern slavery, activists say.
Sorry, 5 minutes left, Mr. Labare.
Okay, I have to go. There were reports of migrant worker abuse, high recruitment fees resulting in debt slavery, paid below minimum wage, forced to work overtime without extra pay, living in substandard conditions. This is an average pay is much lower comparing agriculture, fishing. Migrant workers are paid significantly lower. Let me skip over that. This is from Diplomat last 2 months ago. The disproportionate effect of COVID-19 on migrant workers in ASEAN. A significant percentage of all ASEAN workers consist of migrant labor whose remittances contribute a substantial proportion of GDP. In light of COVID, however, the impact on these migrant workers has been significantly higher and consequences devastating. Migrant workers are often the most overlooked population during this pandemic. I will skip over this because I don't have a lot of time. International Labor Organization, migrant workers are often the first to be laid off, but last to gain access to testing or treatment in line with the national. And this is a policy briefing protecting migrant workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. To continue the story of the Chinese railroad workers facing discrimination, is this a free flow of labor? No. 20 years later, the Chinese Exclusion Act was made into law, barring Chinese immigration to the United States. The Chinese immigrants in the United States were not able to become citizens and their civil rights were greatly restricted. It was the first major law restricting immigration to the United States. 150 years later, I can see parallels in today's world where there is a need for dignity for the migrant worker. There's a need for the protection of rights for the migrant worker, and there's a need for equality of treatment and fair wages for the migrant worker, and there's a need for health and safety for the migrant worker and the abolition of forced labor and debt slavery. To frankly examine the issue is the first positive step. Okay, and this is a World Bank publication which will give a lot of information about overcoming barriers to labor mobility in Southeast Asia. So, I went by that fast. Thank you very much. Okay, finished.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Labari, for your presentation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really good, interesting aging and aged population. So well, everyone, in this challenging situation, I think we have many questions to address. And let me see the question we've got from chat. I will pick some question. Okay, I think the number from, this is question for Dr. Ibrahim Nyoto. Okay, Dr. Ibrahim, please prepare yourself. This is from Sarah. Hello, Sarah. Thank you very much for your question. The question is about how the dangerous of disinfectant to our environment in long period.
Yes. I answer one by one, yeah? Not accumulation question, one by one.
Yeah, I know. That's why. This is from Sarah.
This is the time for me to answer this question. Okay. Dear Sarah, thank you for your question. But this moment, we have a COVID-19 pandemic era. So the effect of the disinfectant through the world, especially for the environment, you know about the toxic agent from the disinfectant, if not using it properly dosed, properly coupled, it can be function like a pesticide. You know about the pesticide? Yes.
Sorry, Dr. Ibrahim. your voice not clearly. Maybe because you're wearing mask. Could you please
Oh,
put off your
okay,
mask
okay, okay, okay.
first? Is it dangerous for
Okay,
you?
okay. I will put off my face shield and my mask first.
Uh,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Mhm.
Really sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Dear Sarah, we right now we facing the COVID-19 pandemic. When someone or maybe a group of people or government using the disinfectant not properly, yeah, about the dose and the pathway, it can be dangerous, toxic, yeah, for the plant, for the environment, for the air. They can be harmful for everyone, like the misuse of pesticide. I think like that. So we must careful using this disinfectant and antiseptics. And thank you for Mr. Gregory, who has explained to us about the mobility labor in Asian countries. You can see the senile population higher in the Singapore because it is correlated with the economic status. The Singapore is very high income of countries. It is a very good health provider. So the aging process may be more higher in Singapore compared to Indonesia. Indonesia is a developing country. We try to live to spend the life expectation of people. So like that, thank you very much, Mr. Gregory. This is a very meaningful information for me and for us in the webinar in this evening. So, dear moderator, like that, the answer for the dear Sarah.
Yeah, there is, okay, Sarah, is it clear for you? And then if, okay, the next question is still for Dr. Ibrahim from Mr. Iskak from Erlangga University. The question is about, as we know that alcohol was major solution in hand sanitizer, is there any precaution about alcohol type which had side effect to human health? Thank you.
Yes, yes. I have mentioned this about these things, these questions in 15, number 15, my slides number 15. Would you please, dear operator, open my slides number 15?
Number 15, page
Yes,
number.
the antiseptic examples and disinfectant examples.
Please wait a moment.
Yes. Yes. In my right hand, we can see the one of the disinfectant, but it is the using for the antiseptics, the hand sanitizer. The products has permission for the Health Ministry of Indonesian Republic. So we must seek and check about the measurement of this product. They have ethyl alcohol 70%. In ISCAP, dear ISCAP, we must beware about the another kind of alcohol, such as wood alcohol. We in the chemistry call it methanol. This is a very dangerous type of alcohol. If the methanol using for the hand sanitizer, it will damage the skin. Also, ingestion or inhalation to air to inside the respiratory tract, it can be induce the allergic disease. As we know, every one has a different level of immunosensitivity. So like that, this is a very dangerous. So we can see the hand sanitizer containing the alcohol. The safety alcohol type is about the ethyl alcohol. We cannot use the methanol or wood alcohol. It will be occurring the side effect. Yeah, like that. My question for dear Iska. Thank you for your question. Yeah, dear moderator, would you please continue this section?
Yeah. Oh, it means that it should be registered
Yes.
by national, and we should see the precaution of the safe ingredient of the antiseptic, right? And regarding to WHO, it should be content at least 60% of alcohol, right?
Yes, like that.
Okay, then. Okay, Mr. Iskap, that's enough. And we can move to the next question. The question is addressed to Mr. Gregory. This is coming from Joni Haryanto from Unisma Malang. Okay, it's about the phenomenon of old age, Mr. Gregory. Old age means young but old, old but young, and he thinks it will be influencing the balancing of the opportunity in the job market in ASEAN. And in fact, that was already happened. Then he wants to know your opinion. Thank you. Is it clear, Mr. Gregory?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear
Oh,
you.
good. Yes, thank you. I'm not quite sure if I understand the question. My opinion is, yeah, it is happening already. I'm looking at the question again. I think it will be influencing the balance of opportunity.
He thought it will be influencing the balancing of the opportunity in the job market in ASEAN. In fact, that was already happened. And he wants to know about your opinion about old age, young but old, old but young.
I can focus on Thailand, for example. Okay. There are job opportunities that can be filled by other nationalities, but there are government restrictions to stop it or to make it much slower. The other thing are restrictive policies for even for migrant unskilled workers for excessively complicated procedures for getting work permits and other documents, visas, and things like that. And recruitment fees that are charged by recruiters, and this is what hampers the flow of labor. That's one of the things, is the government legislation itself makes it more difficult for migrant workers to come. For an example, if there's an architect in Indonesia who wants to be an architect in Bangkok, he or she would have to pass an examination, even though he or she is a licensed architect in Indonesia, would have to pass another exam in Thai language. And that makes it almost impossible, because you would have to all of a sudden become very fluent in reading and writing of the Thai language. So the problems are happening. The labor shortage is real in Thailand, unless all of the construction will stop soon because of COVID. I see construction work walking down in my area. The construction workers are from other countries. So they are doing the work that other nationalities don't want to do. I don't know if that answers your question, but my opinion, yeah, it's a serious problem that it can be improved by government legislation. Yeah. Hello?
I think his question is about how the young people can survive in this situation, Mr. Gregory, because many people has dropped out from the school maybe and from their job, and they lose many opportunities.
How can they survive? They can't. They can't. No, no, because there is not enough government support to help the people. I'm talking about this country, and in my home country, America, it's almost similar to this. Millions and millions and millions of people are out of jobs right now because of COVID, and eventually the government benefits will stop, and this will be a crisis. So in the very near future, meaning the next few weeks or months, in Thailand, I don't know about Indonesia, but I know here it will be a crisis because there are no tourists, there are no people coming from other countries that are not allowed, and a lot of the GDP of this country depends on tourism.
Even though so, it's still hope there, right? There's still hope. I mean,
there's hope.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe next year, but not now. I think at this right now, I think there's no hope. No.
Okay. Okay, that's all for such question, and we move to Mr. Gregory. This is question from Yusuf Baikuni Ahmad from Untak Surabaya. The question is how to pattern to depend on median age Indonesia with other median age country.
I'm reading that question, but I don't really understand what it means.
Okay,
I don't know what that. I'm not quite understanding how to pattern.
Okay. It means maybe from my view, maybe the question is about how we can make a pattern depend on our, Indonesian median age with other median age nation. So such as Japan or maybe a median age of Singapore, something like that.
Well, your median age, the median age in your country is much lower than Singapore. So it indicates that just by looking at it as a quick look, that you have a lot of young people. And then look at the what do you call it? Look at the, let me find it. Look at the pie chart.
Please open the chart.
Open the chart. Look at the pie chart comparing Indonesia with Japan.
Comparing Indonesia with Japan.
A screen share.
On your screen, Mr. Gregoris.
Where is it? I just shared, but I don't see it.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, in that one. So that's not a median age. Your median age is like 28.5, I think. And the median age, 28.5, and median age is 40. So that says, by just looking at that, you say, oh, you've got a very young population. In green, that will eventually enter the workforce. You have a lot of workers available. Japan does not. So, and maybe your country doesn't have enough jobs, so there are other jobs elsewhere that they can go to. If the receiving country makes it available by legislation and other things, makes it possible for somebody from Indonesia or Malaysia or Myanmar to come into Thailand to work without excessive costs. It's very expensive to do that. That's one of the barriers for labor mobility, is government regulation and also the costs involved with recruitment. So I don't know if that answers the question, but you've got a very young median age. I don't think you have a problem. I mean, looking at this chart right here, right there, you look at it and you say, well, our country is relatively young compared to the others.
Yep. I think since Indonesia have many young people. I think this is opportunities for Indonesia to go abroad and to be labor to another country. But I
Yes.
hope, yeah, but I hope they are very skilled worker, not the unskilled worker like you said before. Yeah, Mr. Gregory.
Well, the reality is that there are many unskilled workers.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the sad thing.
yeah.
In,
Yeah, I think there's still one more question. Oh yeah. This is from Professor Ruswiati Suryasa Putra from Universitas Wijaya Kusuma Surabaya to Mr. Gregorius. Through Mr. Gregory, sorry. This Indonesia pandemic curve shows no sign to decline. Testing rates remain among the lowest in the world. And she thought these low rates of testing, a poor healthcare system, poor surveillance, and lack of data transparency, and in this new normal policy can lead to a new wave of mass infection and cause long-term social economic disruption. So she thought in this new normal era, the government faced a dilemmatic choice between economic sector and health sector. And what do you think, Mr. Gregory? Which one actually to be prioritized? Thank you very much, indeed.
what do I think should be prioritized? Is the question written down?
Okay, this one. In this new era, the government faced a dilemmatic choice between economic sector and health sector. Which one to prioritize?
In my opinion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you my opinion as an American thinking about what is happening in America. In my opinion, there should be a national policy to shut things down where there are very dangerous situations of COVID by looking at the statistics. Like in the state of Florida, it's very dangerous right now. So I think if the United States had started months ago with masks and closing down everything, we wouldn't have these horrible statistics in America of so many people already dead and the infections. So it's the health, not the economy first, in my opinion.
So the health sector.
In my opinion, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, we still have time. What time is it? Okay, I think the question and answer session has ended, and this is time for us to close. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, finally we reached the end of session. And here I would like to conclude that by a quickly and valid guidance on physical distancing, communication, testing, isolating and treating cases, and contact tracing, we can survive in this pandemic. And I hope best wishes for us, there are no active cases of COVID-19 anymore in the future. And please always only use safe sanitizer for daily, and please do not use disinfectant for your skin since some of them are harmful for your human tissues. And thank you for joining our seminar online. Thank you very much, Mr. Gregory Labare. Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim Nyoto. And thank you very much for everybody who's joining in our seminar. Can't wait to see you again in our next seminar. Have a good day, Mr. Fani. Here you go.
Okay, thank you for moderator. What a great performance, and thank you to all the speakers for the insight today. Please note that today's webinar certificate can be downloaded from the registration website, or simply just visit Universitas Wijaya Kusuma website www.uwks.ac.id. Well, that's a wrap of our event. It has been our pleasure to host this event. I apologize for any wrong during this webinar. Thank you. Good afternoon and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear moderator.
university are a unique place to explore that grand challenges of our time.
It can be a challenge to make a decision,
To make a new home.
to find truth, to make a friends,
To succeed.
To adapt.
In today's competitive market,
character are greatly needed.
Research was created to endure some of the problems that humanity faces.
And to our solution properly, we make an important contribution. Through our research support, we help others. We build learning culture. With high social responsibility.
To make knowledge experience.
And also work experience.
We maximize the delivery of quality academic.
Our lecturers and staff are always there for you.
To thrive indeed survive in tomorrow's world, it is important to remember that Industry 4.0 requires organization to adopt a creative mindset, understanding the power of the interconnectivity realized by new technologies.
Here at Wijaya Kusuma University of Surabaya, we overcome these challenges with a simple word. We just say hi, and that changes the world.
I'm Yofian. I will be medical veteriner.
I'm Dinda and I will be lawyer.
I'm Juventio. I will be agriculture engineer.
I'm Safira and I will be a politician. I'm Anissa and I will be a lecturer. I'm Ista, I will be doctor.
I'm Yuka, and I will be a manager.